Good afternoon, and welcome to MCU Park in Coney Island, New York City, for this matchup between the New York Empire and the Philadelphia Phoenix here in the AUDL regular season. It's the final home game here in New York City, and the Empire still with a lot to play for, trying to maintain their advantage for the second position in the AUDL East, looking for a first-round home playoff game. And they'll need to win out to secure that berth, especially after Ottawa beat Montreal last night in an important game for the postseason. Ottawa now looking like they've got a pretty good shot at that third spot, but they do have some tough tests ahead, a couple of games against Toronto. We'll get more into the playoff scenarios a little bit later this afternoon. I'm Charlie Eisenhood here with you in Coney Island. See Luna Park in the background. The boardwalk here in Coney Island, a bit of a gray day, but the heavy rains that deluged the East Coast over the past 24 to 48 hours have mostly subsided, and we're actually expecting some sunshine to start peeking through these clouds during the game. Philadelphia Phoenix come to town, a team that has been struggling this year and is out of playoff contention, but they do have a chance to throw a wrench into the Empire's hopes. And so we will get things underway here in just a moment. See the Phoenix team out there on the field getting set for the opening pull. The Empire have not lost to the Phoenix so far this season, and it's been quite a while since they've even had a close game against this Philly team. As the pull is up, and Izzy Bryant, captain of this New York team, centers the disc to Billy Katz as the Empire get things underway. Taylor Brooks holding here. Throw out to the sideline. It's back with Katz. Dish back to Brendan Auerbach. Now a shot towards the end zone. Got a man all alone, but it's intercepted. Didn't see the trailing defender. So the Phoenix take over just outside of the Empire end zone, but a whistle will stop play downfield. May have been an injury, and it does look like a Phoenix defender out of the stack will come off the field, and an injury substitution will be made. Phoenix back to work. Looking to open the game with a break. Taking a shot to the end zone now. Izzy Bryant in pursuit, and he makes the play. So Bryant goes up big, knocks it away, and it'll reset the Empire offense on their goal line. Bryant brings it to the line, checks it into play. Inside forehand, hits Auerbach. Now Katz. Katz swings it over. And now Taylor Brooks taking a shot, looking for Katz deep. Katz has some steps, but the throw is going to hang. Katz goes up, and he brings it down for the Empire goal. Excellent body positioning there from Billy Katz. And the Empire on the board first here in Coney Island. It's 1-0. And the first New York Empire defensive line out there on the field as the Philly offense gets its first touches of the game. They work it out to the far side, and a drop will give possession to New York at midfield. Up the flick sideline goes New York. Oh, and a nice move there from Matt Lamar. Find some separation, and now the Empires swing it all the way across to Drost. Oh, and a dump pass is saved. Nice play from Lamar to maintain possession for New York. Now with Joe Babino, he goes to the outside, and it's, again, a low throw, but handled by the Empire cutter. And now they take a shot. They were struggling to get much going side to side, so they took a shot to the end zone looking for Ben Ivers, but Ivers unable to get there. Not a bad look there from Gary Dixon, but just put a little bit too much underneath the throw. So the Phoenix back to work. And they're going to take a shot deep. Oh, and a nice grab downfield from the Phoenix cutter under pressure from Drost. And now a look to the end zone and a layout, but not able to come up with it is the Phoenix cutter. So the Empire will get it back here. Comes to Dixon. He sends it along. And now up the sideline. And now a mild deep shot and a nice play from C.J. Ouellette. And now the Empire looking towards the end zone, not quite in, but on the goal line, Ivers holding. He dumps it back to Mike Drost, and Mike Drost puts it into the end zone. So the Empire get a break on their first defensive point, and you can see Philadelphia just not quite on the same page. 80% of the way they're looking good, but one throw lets them down at the end of the possession, and the Empire's D-line able to take advantage. And that's really something that's made New York successful, not just this year, but in their 3 seasons of existence. Their defensive line has done a good job of creating turnovers and then converting those turnovers. And really, they've had a ton of success against every team except the Toronto Rush, the #1 seed right now in the East. And the Rush, despite trailing New York through 3 quarters of each of the first 2 games that they played this season, has found a way to come through in the 4th quarter and get the W. And so Empire still without a win over Toronto in the AUDL history. And they will hope to change that, assuming that New York can hold this #2 seed and take advantage of their home game and make it to the Eastern Division Finals. They're looking to finally get over that hump and beat Toronto. And they have maybe the best chance they've had in a very long time with star cutter Mark Lloyd out with an ACL tear, and he will not play for the remainder of this season. So the Phoenix working here, getting it centered and then sent out to the far side. And I apologize, it's extremely difficult to see the Phoenix players' numbers on their jerseys, so I'm going to do my best to keep you up to date with who's doing what, but there's a lot of design work on their jersey that is really obscuring their numbers, so it's hard to see who's who. Oh, and a nice layout to maintain possession there. It looked like it was going to be a block from Ian Guerin for the Empire, but great work out of the middle. Just man defense here from New York. Philadelphia working slowly against it. Nice dump defense from Guerin. Is he going to be able to get there? He makes a bid, but unable to. But Guerin putting the pressure on in the backfield. Inside flick. Now a look into the end zone, and the Phoenix are on the board. So 2-1, your score here, with 5 minutes, 32 seconds to go here in the first quarter. As I mentioned at the start of the show, this is the final home game for the New York Empire. They're going to be favored throughout the rest of their 2015 regular season. As they face off against Rochester and Washington, D.C. Short pull from the Empire, or excuse me, from the Phoenix. And the New York offense back underway. Billy Katz with a long underneath cut. Creates some room. Taylor Brooks taking a shot. Big bid, but a nice throw from Brooks as he gets it into the hands of Matt Stevens, heading to the end zone. And those are probably the two best deep cutters on this Empire team, Brooks and Stevens. And I think you really see the growth in Taylor Brooks's game. You know, he's not just going up over the top of people in the end zone. We've seen him take a couple of nice mid-range shots today. That's a good throw. And nice closing speed from the Phoenix defender, but not quite able to get a hand on the disc. So the Empire back up by 2. Brooks made the New York Pony roster, which was recently announced. Pony will compete at the U.S. Open, and that's in the USA Ultimate Club division. U.S. Open taking place this week in Cincinnati. Pony had a scrimmage last night against the Great Britain national team. Great Britain took the game 17-15 in what you might call torrential downpours. It was really raining. One Pony player said it's the rainiest game he's played in years. Shot to the end zone from the Phoenix, but too far out in front, and it's a turnover for Philadelphia. Phoenix close out their season with home games against Rochester and then against New York. So, see a shot down the field and tipped away by the Phoenix defender. That will roll all the way out the back of the end zone, so get put back into play on the goal line. Phoenix swing it off the line. Inside backhand, ooh, almost knocked away, and now taking a shot deep. And Drost able to lay out and knock it away. And the sun just starting to peek through the clouds here. So it's going to turn into a beautiful day here just off the beach in Coney Island. It's already up around 70 degrees, and fans already starting to move down into the sunnier seats as a misty rain has burned off. Empire working down the field. Sam Taylor basically unmarked right now. Not clear if somebody just blew their defensive assignment. Finally, they get a mark on him. Taylor looking to get rid of it and throws kind of a crazy throw out to the side, but nice play there from Ryan Drost. And he'll go into the end zone, but we do have a whistle. I think this is going to come back. Some discussion with the referees, and now it looks like no, that's going to be an Empire score. So they're open up a 3-point lead for the first time this game. 2:23 to go here in the first quarter. So you see really the talent gap here between New York and Philadelphia. This Phoenix team competes hard, but they really just don't have the player personnel to really go up against the better teams in this AUDL East. And they've struggled against basically everybody except Rochester. And, you know, you're going to see some of these players start to rise up and come into their own. Kyle Wolf, already a very good player. He's been making big plays for the Phoenix since the team came into existence a couple of years back. But a lot of these players you might consider second tier from the city. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that they compete in the same city as the Philadelphia Spinners in Major League Ultimate, the competing league with the AUDL. And really, you've just seen all of the good talent play for the Spinners, something that hasn't really happened in New York. In New York, there's much more of a split between the two leagues, as we see the Empire easily score off of the set piece there. So, in fact, they did bring it back, but of no consequence, as it remains 4-1. So the Phoenix have basically had to have second pick of players in the city, whereas in New York, you've seen a more even split between the two teams. And I think it's really an open question if the two teams faced off, who would win that game. Whereas I think in many of the other cities where two teams compete in both the AUDL and the MLU, out here on the East Coast, the MLU teams would largely dominate in Washington and in Philadelphia. Here's the pull from the Empire. But one thing we have seen is the Phoenix has developed players that have then gone on to play at higher levels, and I think it's what you expect from a younger team, and things could easily change in the coming years as we see a drop disc down there from the Phoenix cutter. Two players converging on the spot, maybe a little bit of a miscommunication between the two of them. But should have been caught there. So the Empire looking to extend their lead. 1:45 to go here in the first, so they can't dilly-dally. And a whistle on the contact there from the Phoenix player on the receiver. So 10-yard penalty goes against the Phoenix. Mike Drost gets it up ahead to Matt Lamar. Lamar shooting deep, but his throw came out a little wobbly and didn't quite have a nice carve, so he turns it over. Phoenix get it back, bring it to the goal line.
1 minute remains in the first quarter.
1 minute to go here in the first. Oh, and a beautiful layout D from the Empire. Ian Guerin gets the block, and a sizable contingent of Guerin fans cheers in the crowd as we watch the Empire finish the possession with a goal. So they've opened up a 5-1 lead, and with 44.7 seconds to go here in the first quarter, Empire smooth sailing so far here against Philadelphia. And while things are still not totally settled out east in terms of playoff spots and who's going to finish where and even who's going to play at home in the first round, it does look like Toronto's in pretty good position to lock up the #1 overall seed. They would have to lose some games that they simply won't lose in order to have any issues. The things are still much less settled in the other divisions, particularly in the South, where Jacksonville has been surging and putting themselves into the conversation for a playoff spot. They've got a big game coming up against Atlanta. And out west, things are really crazy, where 4 or 5 teams still have a chance to make the playoffs. And really, it only looks like San Jose has anything wrapped up. I'll get you some scores from yesterday's games as well in just a moment, as we see this huck from the Phoenix get knocked away by the Empire defense. And see the Phoenix player looking for a call, and I think he got it. Pretty late call there from the referees, but sometimes an appeal to the refs gets you a call in the AUDL, and it worked out that time for the Phoenix. 7 seconds to go here, so they've got to score quickly, and they go to the corner and into the end zone. So bit of a break perhaps there for the Phoenix, but the foul call works out in their favor. So they've got just a 3-point deficit here. It looks like that's pretty much going to end things here. We've got 3.8 seconds to go in the quarter. That's probably not enough time for New York to get off a huck to the end zone, but we will see. End of quarter management, always interesting. So some scores from yesterday. The DC-Philadelphia game was suspended due to the rain that was here all day yesterday. Ottawa beat Montreal 29-25 as we see the quarter come to a close. Toronto beat Rochester 27-10. It's one of the more lopsided games you'll see in the league. In the Midwest Division, Chicago beat Detroit 21-11. Minnesota beat Cincinnati 21-17. Some big games today. Indianapolis taking on Minnesota, and Pittsburgh in Chicago. That Pittsburgh-Chicago game, a critical one. Wildfire looking to make the playoffs. They're probably going to need to win against Pittsburgh if they want to have a chance to do that. Out west, San Francisco beat Vancouver 22-19. So the Flamethrowers continuing to make their playoff push. They got a big win against Seattle last weekend. And today we see the second game of a back-to-back for San Francisco. Again, they play Seattle. So they got the win that they needed to get against Vancouver. If they were to get the win against Seattle, perhaps an unlikely scenario given the back-to-back, that would really solidify their place and then probably lock up a playoff spot for them. And in the South, Atlanta beat Charlotte 26-13, and Raleigh beat Nashville 20-15. Both of those teams, Atlanta and Raleigh, looking to maintain their spot in the playoffs. The big game coming up next weekend on the 4th of July. Atlanta taking on Jacksonville, 7 o'clock. And that's a huge game for both teams. Jacksonville, if they get the win, will probably knock the Hustle out of the playoffs. So that's the roundup. Stay tuned to Ultiworld in the next couple of days as we continue to keep you posted on all of the pro playoff scenarios. Major League Ultimate, Boston got a blowout win over Philadelphia yesterday, and that secures the home playoff game for them, and they will face Philadelphia again. And so we'll see if Philadelphia can put forth a little bit of a better effort in that playoff game compared to what they showed yesterday. Getting ready to start the second quarter here. 5-2 New York. Empire will begin the second quarter on defense, getting ready to pull here. And Phoenix off to work on offense. Side stack from Philadelphia. Nicely shut down by the Empire, and somehow Izzy Bryant not able to get a block there. Looked like he was there in time, but just didn't get a hand on it. Big block, and nicely done. Down right near the goal line from the Empire. Here's Bryant. He's looking deep. And it's a nice shot to just in front of the goal line. Empire looking to finish it off, and they do. So New York adds to their lead to begin here in the second quarter. They're back up 4. And really just on both sides of the disc, New York looking like the better team. Excellent defense, already a couple of layout blocks. And they continue to find that open space deep. New York's really become a pretty good hucking team. And they've developed some players into excellent deep threats. And that uncontested backhand from Bryant makes it an easy throw. Phoenix breaking through, a little bit of a junky look from New York. Doesn't really work out, and they gobble up about 75 yards. I mean, these numbers on the Philadelphia jerseys are completely illegible. It's sort of shocking that they were allowed to create jerseys that cannot be seen. They have numbers on the shorts, but you also can't really see those as there's a stall call on the field, so that's going to be New York disc. A little bit of a quick trigger on the stall count there from the referee, but we've seen that from these New York referees at times. Empire looking to the end zone, and they find Mike Drost for the score. 7-2 New York, 9:43 to go in the first half. I just have to go back to this. The jerseys have big ray patterns across the back and then black numbers across the top of the ray, but literally I have not been able to read a single number from any of these players. And I'm basically sitting where the camera is. So I apologize again for not being able to give you the run of play here when Philadelphia has the disc, but this is really my first time seeing this team play this season. And you just cannot read those numbers. So a word to the jersey designers: remember that the numbers are the most important thing on the jersey, and all of the crazy sublimation is secondary. Pull from New York. And a lefty backhand, nowhere close. New York immediately attacking deep, and it's an easy score for New York. And just like that, into the end zone. Elliot Bemis with the goal, and it's 8-2 Empire. Well, if you got questions about the AUDL, about this game, about the New York Empire, maybe about what's coming up in the postseason here in the AUDL, tweet at me. You can find me at C Eisenhood. That's CEISENHOOD. Or you can tweet at UltiWorld. That's Ulti_world. I'll try to get to some of your questions. We're going to have a lot to talk about here, as this game is looking like it's already devolving into a bit of a runaway performance from New York. So I'd be happy to have a conversation with you all about whatever you'd like to talk about. And you know what? You can also, if you're watching on YouTube, you can also just leave some questions in the comments right there on YouTube. I can see those as well. The roller coaster running in the background. That's not the one to ride, though. If you come to New York City and you have a chance to make it down here to Coney Island in South Brooklyn, you have to ride the Cyclone. It's the wooden roller coaster built some 60-plus years ago now, and has just enough of the feel like you might crash to make it a perfect ride. It's one of the best wooden roller coasters in the country. People starting to file over to the beach now, just past the outfield wall of the MCU Park baseball stadium. This is where the Short A team plays in the New York Mets organization. Talking to some of the Cyclones, Brooklyn Cyclones management before the game. They said the team's doing well, 6-3. Right in the middle of their season. Phoenix offense back to work, running a horizontal stack here. Go out to the outside. And then up that backhand side, and now a shot to the end zone. And it's brought down, but out of bounds. Oh, that was a great catch, but couldn't bring his feet down inbounds. So it'll be Empire disc, and Boy, it's just been that kind of game so far for the Phoenix. Little breaks really just not going their way. Bryant brings it across to Andrew Wilkes. And a whistle. And it looks like it's going to be a 10-yard penalty against Philadelphia. Billy Katz will walk to the disc for New York.
Foul on Philadelphia. Empire retains it.
And a hammer looking across the field, but it's going to go over everybody's head. An ambitious throw from Matt Auletta as two Empire players and their defenders converged. Looked like for a moment Taylor Brooks might have a play on it, but disc hung up a little bit as we watched the the Phoenix turn it over quickly right back to the Empire. Auletta. Short backhand to the corner and into the end zone. Izzy Bryant just beat his man in the one spot you can't get beat, to that front cone. And the Empire open up a 7-point lead here on the Phoenix. 7.5 to go here in this first half. Really turning into a beautiful day.
Empire score by number 9, Isaiah Izzy Bryant. Assisted by number 4, Matt Pittman Auletta.
And I see here in the YouTube comments, Joshua Maurice says, I wish these teams could play across divisions somewhere besides the playoffs. Yeah, absolutely. I think the reason that doesn't happen is very simple, and you may be able to guess that yourselves. It's a travel cost issue. It's a lot cheaper for Philadelphia to drive up to New York City, take the 2 hours up I-95, and come play here than it is for Philadelphia to try to go to a Midwestern team or, of course, to the West Coast. But I would not be surprised if we started to see at least a little bit of interdivisional play sometime in the next couple of years, at least for some teams. As we see the Phoenix take a shot into the end zone, and that's a nice possession for Philadelphia. And a little bit of a defensive breakdown there from New York, but Phoenix looking very solid on offense on that point. But you can imagine some teams, for example, Washington, D.C. could, without an unreasonable cost, go down and play Raleigh, for example, in North Carolina. And, that drive is shorter than the one that they make to go up and play at Montreal, for example. So you could see some of that in the next few years. It would certainly be great for competition. I think a lot of people would love to see some of the top teams face off before the playoffs, because right now the teams don't play outside of their division until the semifinals. So you kind of end up with, it's like 4 mini leagues and then a big playoff bracket. But travel costs can be prohibitive, and you don't forget, this is still the fledgling years of professional ultimate. Sending a team of 25 players on an airplane cross coast is going to cost you quite a bit. And right now that just doesn't make sense. Disc checked into play. Empire back to work. Aletta. Aletta and Dixon working in the backfield. And a poor throw there from Dixon. Not sure if there was a miscommunication or if it just stuck on his hand. But Philadelphia with their chance for a break. Little high release lefty backhand there. Now the Phoenix into the end zone for the score and their first break of the game as they close the lead down to 5. And Marco Romagnoli asks, what do you think the AUDL's attendance goals should be for championship weekend at Avaya Stadium? And Avaya Stadium is in California. It's right there in the South Bay. And from all reports, it's a fantastic stadium. It's new. And I'll try to get a little bit of information about it right now. You know, it's a great question. I think it wouldn't be outrageous to think that they should be trying to shoot for 5,000 people, at least at one of those games. Of course, it will help if one or both, if either of the Bay Area teams is in that semifinal and final, that's going to help attendance a great deal for obvious reasons. I'm sure they expect San Jose to make it back to the semis. It looks like they certainly could, although they're probably going to have a tough game in that Western Division final, maybe against Seattle, maybe against San Francisco. But either way, San Jose has not been unbeatable this season the way they were last year. And the West is very interesting. I think you could really see 3 or 4 different teams having the chance to make it there as we see a turnover, but now a plea to the referee and a late whistle again. Billy Katz will get to walk it up 10 yards. Out to Stevens. Stevens tries to find Wilkes, but a turnover. So Philadelphia got a chance to take advantage of a little bit of a lull here from New York. But a big layout on the far sideline. Gets the disc back for New York. Just over 4 minutes to go here in the first half. So a little information about Avaya Stadium. Brand new. It's the home of the Major League Soccer's San Jose Earthquakes. So it's right there in San Jose. And from what I've heard, it's one of the most advanced stadiums in the country right now, as you might expect, being right in the heart of tech country, Silicon Valley. Oh, and a beautiful grab from Wilkes. And a score for New York as they crack double digits.
The Empire score number 2, Andrew Wilkes.
So Avaya Stadium holds 18,000 people. It's got a grass surface, no roof. And it opened in March of this year, $100 million stadium. And I'm actually wrong. It has a canopy roof. And the steepest seating in the MLS so that you can be as close to the field as possible. It's got the, check out this. The north end zone houses the largest outdoor bar in North America. Also a 2-acre fan zone and a 2-sided video scoreboard. So from reports, top AUDL management had some connections with the Avaya Stadium team and the MLS and was able to secure that site for their championship game. So, you know, it seems like sky's the limit. I mean, we've already seen great attendance in San Jose at times. And for something like this, with a long time to promote it, as we see a shot go up from the Phoenix, and a layout, but a little bit short. Looked like he could have taken maybe one or two more steps and had a little bit better shot at that, but it will be the Empire taking over with 2 minutes, 50 seconds to go here in the first half. Yeah, I said 5,000 people. We see a turnover there from Ian Guerin, throwing a little bit too high up the line, so Phoenix take back over. On a drop from the Phoenix in the end zone. So that's another tough break for Philadelphia. Empire moving up the sideline. Bryant. Little floating flick into the end zone for the Empire score. So they tack on another break and are back up by 7. I'm trying to find out a little bit more information about North America's largest outdoor bar.
Empire score number 12, Matt Lamar, assisted by Izzy Wright. With 2 minutes remaining in the first half, the score is Philadelphia Phoenix 4, your Empire 12.
Phoenix back to work on offense. Nice throw up the sideline, but nobody home on the deep cut, so unable to take advantage of that power position. Inside backhand, looking to the end zone. And great defensive effort. Put some pressure on the Phoenix player in the back of the end zone from Drost. So with 1 minute to go,
1 minute remains in the first half.
the Empire have a chance to extend their lead here. Swung around, and oh, nice grab from Joe Babino to save possession for New York.
30 seconds remaining in the first half.
30 seconds to go here now, 25. Empire needing to take a look deep here. Sam Taylor thought about it, but didn't take the chance. 12 seconds to go now. Disc is with Mike Drost. CJ Ouellette, 6 seconds to go. Ouellette into the end zone for the goal. With 3 seconds to go, the Empire tack on another. And a very nice play from the Empire. So a little bit more information about this Avaya Stadium's outdoor bar. This is pretty amazing.
Assisted by C.
310 feet in circumference, the bar itself. So basically a football length bar. Football field size length. So imagine this field of play here being a bar with 22 bartender workstations. Now what I like is this. It's during soccer games, it's 55 feet behind the north goal, and there's no net between the goal and the bar. So if there are some blasts that miss the net, they could come buzzing into the bar area. Probably less of a concern at an ultimate game.
And that is the end of the first half. The score, Philadelphia Phoenix 4. And your New
And that's the
York
end of the first half.
13.
Empire with an 11-point lead over the Phoenix. I'm sorry, a 9-point lead. 13-4, final score here at the end of the first half. Keep asking questions. I'll answer more here at the beginning of the second half. For now, it's halftime, so we will be back in just a little bit. Halftime score here, Empire 13, Phoenix 4. Welcome back to Coney Island, where the Empire have a 12-4 lead over the Philadelphia Phoenix. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, if you're just joining us. And we are in MCU Park here in South Brooklyn, just off of the beach. It's turned into a beautiful day here in Coney Island. Sun's out, clouds have burned off, and we're getting ready to start the second half. Empire dominated the first half on both offense and defense, opening up an 8-point lead to start the half. I did have the score at 13-4 because the stadium scoreboard said it was 13-4, and I thought potentially it missed a point, but they actually corrected the score at halftime, so we had it right. It's 12-4. And as I mentioned earlier in the first half, taking your questions about the AUDL, about the upcoming playoffs. We talked a little bit about the stadium where the team will be, the 4 semifinalist teams will be playing, one from each division, and Avaya Stadium out in San Jose. And happy to talk more about that weekend or whatever else you want to talk about. So leave comments in the YouTube comments or tweet at us. Ulti_world is our handle. A little throw here to Billy Katz. Katz does a nice job bodying out. This comes back to Auletta and all the way around to Dixon. Empire working it. Katz unmarked. Gets it, gives it right back to Auletta. Auletta going up the sideline, but not on the same page with his cutter. And it's a turnover for New York. Matt Weiner, the intended receiver. Philadelphia turns it back over. Throw too far out in front. Katz picks it up for New York. Taylor Brooks. Katz can't get it, but it goes across, but a whistle, and it's a stall out. So it's going to be Phoenix disc at the spot of the throw. Throw there goes too high, but it's caught from a well-positioned second receiver. And now a throw across the field into traffic, and it's easily taken away by New York. Dixon thought about sending it deep, but held onto it. Now his throw hits the turf. Dixon normally super solid, but looking a little bit run ragged today. Played yesterday with Pony against Great Britain in the pouring rain and after a long practice and maybe a little bit fatigued. And we have a timeout on the field. Phoenix want to talk it over as they look to try to put this one in. 9:13 to go here in the third quarter, so a little bit of a sloppy start here to the second half. So let's take some questions. Somebody asked, can you explain how the playoffs work again? Yeah, sure. It's a little different in different divisions. So for the most part, in the South, the Midwest, and the West, the Midwest, and the East, 3 teams make the playoffs. The 1 seed gets a bye into the division finals. and the 2 and the 3 seed play to have a chance to face off against the 1 seed. So the number 2 seed plays a home game, and the 3 seed comes to town. They play. Winner goes on to face the number 1 seed in their home city. So, for example, in the East, we might see Toronto with the 1 seed getting the bye, and then New York hosting potentially Ottawa, potentially Montreal in the first round. Still not clear if New York does end up with the 2nd seed, where that game will be played. Because of some scheduling issues, it looks like New York might have to play outside of New York City and potentially even play a back-to-back Friday night game for the first round of the playoffs, and then go to Toronto and play on Saturday for the division finals, assuming New York wins. So it could be an interesting and a little bit of a tricky scheduling situation as the Phoenix right on the goal line now, looking to punch it in here, and a blading throw is knocked away, but caught on the second effort. What a grab from a sliding Phoenix player, and he was just in the right place at the right time, went into a slide and pulled it down. So the Phoenix add 1 and get the first score of the second half, and it's now 12-5. Then in the South, for the playoffs, because there are fewer teams, only 2 teams make the playoffs, and they just play the division finals. It looks like that game likely to be hosted by Atlanta, but first Atlanta has to take care of business against Jacksonville, which is not something that, I don't know if you would call it taking care of business. They're going to have to win a game that's been tough for them. They lost to Jacksonville last week, and Jacksonville has been the hottest team in the league. They've won 8 of their last 9, I believe. So then the 4 teams that come out of each of the 4 divisions will all head out to San Jose for championship weekend, where they will play the semifinals on Saturday and then the finals on Sunday. The dates can be found online. So that's the way that the playoffs will work this year in the AUDL. It's changed a little bit every year because of new teams coming into the league. And more changes coming next year. We've got a couple Texas teams coming on board. I saw some folks also asking in the comments about expansion. You know, it's not necessarily clear exactly which teams are going to open up where. If there will be any teams that fold, that is a possibility. Some teams have really struggled on the field and in the stands as we watch the Empire work it quickly down for the score. So with that, you know, the expansion and potential contraction of some teams, it's tough to know exactly where things will stand next year, but we do know teams are coming to Texas, and I wouldn't be surprised if we had a team in Denver next year. And other than that, it's not clear. There hasn't been any word of other teams coming on board, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did see some more. Pull is up. We can see the interesting defense here from the Empire. Izzy Bryant playing with his back to the throwers as the Phoenix just drop it against essentially no pressure. Bryant throws a little blade out to the far side, and Timber Farrell brings it down for the Empire score. Haven't said Farrell's name yet today, but he's been a nice pickup for this Empire team. Has been a very good defender and come up with some big plays and some big spots as he gets the goal there. And you do see some players out today for the Empire. Jack Marsh not here. He's at his yearly gig helping run a circus. in the Midwest. And so he's away for now, but he'll be back for the playoffs. Also out today, see who else we haven't seen. Haven't seen Matt Baum today. Ignacio hasn't been out there. Lionel Winninger, normally a stalwart offensive handler for the team, also out. He's got a separated shoulder right now. He's in the stands watching the team. He's hoping to be healthy for the playoffs in a couple of weeks. And the throw is tipped and dropped by the Phoenix. So it's back to New York. Izzy Bryant with it. It's Ross Ward, gets it back. And a low throw into the end zone is almost caught, but Ward just not quite able to get down there low enough to pick it up off the turf. So you can see this interesting defense. Take a look here what the Empire are doing. No mark. They're sagging off into the lanes and essentially trying to take away any downfield throws and just forcing players to swing it back and forth. And you'll eventually see them put pressure in certain spots where they want to try to double team, for example. But for the most part, they let the disc swing. And now you see them transition back essentially into a man defense. And it's somehow caught there after the bobble. Disc sent into the middle. And a shallow throw across. Not into the end zone yet, but near the goal line. And now the Phoenix go into the end zone for the score. So the contained defense from the Empire, not particularly effective that time. But considering how many times they've just watched the Phoenix players drop the disc, not an unreasonable defense to try out. And you can be sure the Empire's already thinking about the playoffs, and they'll be working on some various defensive and offensive sets throughout the rest of this game with a very comfortable lead here of 8 points. Someone asked how today's attendance is at the game. Well, let me try to give you a quick estimate. I would say there's about 100 people here. As I mentioned before, it was raining all day yesterday and looked pretty ominous, although it wasn't really raining. It was sort of misting earlier today, and I think that probably drove down attendance somewhat. But this crowd is not particularly smaller than an average crowd here at MCU Park. It's a long way down here to Coney Island, and New York, despite their success on the field, has not always put a lot of people in the seats. Home opener tends to have 300-ish, but today, modest crowd. There's some folks from Clapham and the Great Britain team here. They're still in town. They'll be heading to Cincinnati for the U.S. Open later this week. Lots of friends, lots of family. And some new folks as well. Some parents of various Ultimate players not on the team. Taking a look at the AUDL Guide Season Magazine. Really a nice program. Empire offense working slowly up the field. We see Katz find some room, throws a short scuba over to Wilkes, and they go all the way across to Stevens. Brooks and Stevens. Stevens has no mark, so he'll throw into the end zone, but Too far for Matt Aletta, who had to try to slide and keep his feet in bounds as he went for the catch, and he was unable to make it happen. So the disc will go over to Philadelphia. Lots of Ultimate this weekend. Pro games, some early season club tournaments, Masters regionals happening this weekend. So players over the age of 30 playing in their regional tournament, getting ready for Masters Nationals. Not too far around the corner. And it's a score for New York. And that makes it 15-6. 3:39 to go here in the third quarter. Well, this has been the story for New York for years now. Total dominance at home over every team except Toronto. And that remains the lingering question over their 2015 season. Can they finally beat Toronto? And it almost seems like it might be a psychological block at this point. You say what you want about the lineups that they've played against and whether the Toronto's had a full team. The Empire were the better team in both of their games this season throughout most of the game. And they were leading heading into the fourth quarter in both games, and then they blew the lead in the fourth quarter. And now, with the playoffs on the horizon, you have to think they're thinking about that trip to San Jose as we see a shot go up to the sideline from the Phoenix. Oh, a nice defense downfield shuts it off. See if Phoenix can convert here. And we do see Philly get into the end zone. Nice possession there. The rush will be without Mark Lloyd and without Jonathan Martin. Martin broke a bone in his leg, so he is out for the foreseeable future. And Mark Lloyd out with a torn ACL. Very unfortunate. Lloyd, one of the stars of the AUDL, one of the faces of the league, and really, I think right now, an unquestionable top 10 player in the world, and I would put him in the top 5. And it's disappointing to see injuries take people out of the game. Brody Smith also out, Chicago Wildfire player. He has torn his ACL as well, so another setback with another knee injury for Smith. And it's been tough to watch Brody Smith over these last few years because he was unquestionably the best player in all of college ultimate and has really had a limited impact in the club game because of his injuries. Just has never really gotten back to 100%. And he's still an impactful player. I mean, few players can throw with the kind of just power and accurate power that Smith can. But when he's so limited on defense and around the disc moving because of his knees, as we see the Empire turn it over on a swing pass from Dixon to Brooks. Dixon's had a lot of turnovers today. He's really had a bit of a tough game. But back to Brody, he's just hasn't been able to make that unbelievable impact. And, if anything, his impact goes well beyond the field because of what he's been able to do in terms of growing the sport and interest in the sport. because of his YouTube and internet presence. And he's introduced more people to Ultimate than maybe anybody. So we hope he gets healthy and back to full strength. He could still got a few years left of excellent peak athleticism. So if he can get healthy, won't be surprised to see him come make a big impact in the pro game and in the club game. Swing across the field, layout grab for the score from the Phoenix. Another nice play. We've seen a couple really nice plays from Philadelphia as they put another score on the board. Back to a 7-point game with 1:35 to go here in the third. Pittsburgh and Chicago started their game out of the Midwest. Important game for postseason hopes for both teams.
Phoenix score brings it to 15-8 with a minute 35 seconds remaining.
2-2 in that game with 9 minutes to go in the first quarter. Max Thorne just scored his first AUDL goal. Pittsburgh Thunderbirds picking up a bunch of those Pittsburgh college players now that their season is over. Bryant turned his mark around, nice fake. Now throwing a blade out to the sideline. Nice throw from Bryant, and now looking into the end zone on a layout, but not enough. It's a good look from Auerbach, but could not bring it down.
1 minute remains in the third quarter.
1 minute to go here in the third. Phoenix looking to narrow this lead a little bit. Drost almost got a catch block there, but instead he's called for the foul, and it's a 10-yard penalty. 40 seconds to go here. Phoenix trying to cut the lead down to 6. 30 to go. Big layout there. Oh, and the throw behind the intended receiver, and the Phoenix turn it over. So the Empire with plenty of time here to try to score. Bryant holding with 15 seconds to go. He's going to take a shot right away. Oh, what a perfect throw from Izzy Bryant. He's had a great game, and he puts it into the end zone. For the score, the Empire back in front by 8. And with just 10 seconds to go, that could be the final score of the third quarter. Ross Ward on the score there for the Empire. Someone just asked a great question. Do cities have Major League Ultimate versus AUDL grudge match games? They don't, and I don't know why. I think it's a great idea. If there's anything that would get people to come out to a game, it would be that. The teams could split the proceeds at the gate. It would be a fun way for the whole community to come out. I think one of the problems is that in most cities, one team is clearly dominant. Talked a little bit about that before. A Washington, D.C. MLU team much better. Philly MLU team much better. Big shot from the Philadelphia Phoenix here, looking to the end zone with no time left on the clock, but it's going to go too far and over into the stands, and the crowd cheers appreciatively on the huge play. It would have been kind of fun to watch and see if a player could try to go up off the wall. It would have been out of bounds, but make a baseball-style play, leaping up over the wall, make the catch. Even if it hadn't counted, would have been awesome. Anyway, I think the MLU AUDL grudge match thing, part of the problem is that there's just not a whole lot of love lost between the two organizations right now, and while I think that will likely change in the next few years, I can't imagine we're going to have two professional Ultimate Leagues for too much longer. For now, you're just not going to see that. But I would certainly love to see the New York Empire take on the New York Rumble. It would be a great game. I don't think you could pick an easy winner. A lot of the players played together on other teams, so it would be competitive but friendly, and I think a lot of people would come out and see just who would win. So that's the end of the third quarter, 16-8, the score here at the break. We'll be back in just a moment for the start of the fourth. Back to the start of the fourth quarter here in Coney Island. 16-8, Empire lead. Phoenix trying to avoid getting doubled up here by New York. Foul called against the Empire, 10-yard penalty assessed. Checked back into play. And a short forehand into the end zone for Philadelphia, and they score easily.
Score by number 5, Phoenix, Brian Nate.
If the season ended today, the Ottawa Outlaws would make the playoffs over the Montreal Royale. Royale lost yesterday to Ottawa, and so they are now 7-5, whereas Ottawa is 7-4. Now the tough thing for Ottawa is that they got a couple games down the stretch against Toronto, and they're really going to need to win at least one of those. But they do hold the head-to-head tiebreaker against Montreal, so if they were to finish with the same record, say 8-6, then Ottawa would make the playoffs. But it's not decided yet. It's probably going to come down to those rush games, because it looks like Montreal is likely to win out. This Phoenix team, 0-10 on the season. Not even able to beat Rochester, who is 1-8. So a couple of the worst teams in the league, and this Philadelphia Phoenix team has a case, as we see the Empire put it in the end zone, the case for being maybe the worst team in the league. It has been a very tough year for them. But the Detroit Mechanics at 0-11 with a minus 134 point differential compared to the Philadelphia's minus 70 point differential probably takes the award for worst team in the AUDL in 2015. And I think the bigger question is who's the best team in the AUDL? What I think is fascinating is that we may not really have an answer until the postseason because of the nature of the games. I mean, the Toronto Rush have one of the best records in the league at 10-1. They have a 104 point differential. Madison Radicals 11-1 with a 107 positive point differential. So on those numbers alone, you might say that Madison and Toronto are the top teams. While those teams are certainly favored to make it to the championship weekend, I don't think many would pick either of those teams to win the championship this year. And that's because although there are more losses for some of those teams out west and down south, those divisions are just much tougher. And, you know, the Spiders, San Jose Spiders, 10-3 right now with just a plus 40 point differential as we see the Empire get a block out on the far side. Although they've lost 3 games, those are 2 teams that would probably be at the top of a number of the other divisions. I think Seattle would be the top team in the East or the Midwest, for example, and they're only number 2 out west. Oh, beautiful layout from Joe Babino. Great stuff from Joe Babino. And you got to love the effort, despite the fact that the Empire way up in this game. It's now 18-9. 9:45 to go here in the game. And great closing speed there from Babino. He'll have a shot at making the AUDL top 10 with that play this week. If I had to pick the semifinals, I think I picked this earlier this year, but I'm going to take I think San Jose having home field advantage is going to be a pretty big deal. I go back and forth about whether I think they will win or Seattle, if Seattle gets to that game. But I think I like San Jose at the end of the day, playing at home. I think the Empire are going to upset the Rush and that they're going to make it to San Jose for the first time. Make it into that Final Four. They've been in the Final Four before when there were fewer divisions, but I think they'll beat Toronto for the first time. I think Madison's going to make it out of the Midwest, and I think that Raleigh will make it out of the South. See a huck go up from Philadelphia, and it's just poorly read there from the Empire defender. Ross Ward unable to get there, and the Phoenix take advantage and put it in the end zone and crack double digits for the first time. So, you know, assuming San Jose makes it, you've got to give them some pretty big advantages because they're playing at home. Of course, coming off of a championship run, trying to defend that title. Last year, they had to play on the road in Toronto for the finals. And got a fairly convincing win over Toronto in that game. They're maybe not quite as good as they were last year, though. Especially, figured the harder regular season has to take a toll. And they lost some players. Kurt Gibson, notably, who's playing with San Diego this year. And they've just looked a little bit less dominant this year. Not that they don't have what it takes to beat basically any team in this league, but just haven't brought it for every game. Regardless, I think they've got to be considered a favorite to make it back to the finals. And the question is who makes it there alongside them. I think a lot of people like Raleigh. Beautiful huck from the Empire. Matt Stevens all alone for the Empire score. Just over 9 minutes to go here in the game.
The Empire score number 17, Matt Stevens.
I'm very interested to see if Madison can continue to improve. They're going to have a little bit of a challenge this year, especially if they face Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has probably been playing a little bit better ultimate than Madison. But Madison's defense, when they turn it on, it's probably the best in the league, and they've come very close to beating great teams in the playoffs with that defense. They almost beat San Jose last year and just came up a little bit short. Maybe this is the year that they can get over that hump. Phoenix with the swing. Big layout from Ian Guerin, but not quite able to get a hand on it. Phoenix offense has looked a little bit better here in the second half. Trading mostly with the Empire throughout the last 8 or so points. And a nice cut right straight up the gut from the Phoenix, and they score again.
The Phoenix score number 35.
And back to an 8-point game here.
That means with 7 minutes 56 remaining in the fourth quarter, the score is Philadelphia Phoenix 11, your Empire 19.
Somebody asked, do you think the Phoenix will win a game this year? Do you think they will still have a team next year? Well, I don't think they're going to win a game, but they have a good chance at least next week or maybe 2 weeks from now against Rochester at home. That's certainly the most winnable game that they've had in quite a while. Rochester is shorthanded at all. That's got to give Philadelphia a chance to win. And I think they're going to be super motivated to win that game. You know, nobody wants to finish out a year without a win on the ledger. See another huck from the Empire, completed for a score. So, certainly possible. that they could win that game. Will they be back next year? Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't quite know how things have been going for them from a sort of a, obviously on the field they're not doing well, but I don't know how they're doing in the stands. I don't know how the management and ownership is feeling about the team. I would sort of be surprised if there wasn't another Philly team next year. It seems more likely to me that we'll see teams like potentially Rochester drop out. I wonder at times about Detroit. They have really struggled to not only put a competitive team on the field, but also to just bring people in the stands. And, you know, there's a lot of good Ultimate players in Michigan, but there's been not a lot of good feelings between those players and the management of the Mechanics. So we'll see. I think if any team's gone next year, it'll be Rochester. And the huck goes over the head of the intended receiver. And the Empire will pick up. Izzy Bryant brings it to the line. Oh, a great grab. Trailing edge grab from Mike Drost. Just reached out and snatched that disc as it looked like it was about to fly past him. And the Empire attack on a break here in the fourth quarter. It's 21-11 with 6.5 to go here in the fourth. Philadelphia to the far side. And a turnover on the short forehand. And a nice layout D there from Philadelphia. The throw may have been too far out in front for there to be a real play anyway from the Empire player, but either way, nice block against C.J. Lett. And a whistle from the referee. Not quite sure what happened there. Whistled back into play. And a hammer is knocked away. Sam Taylor gets the block. Bryant will pick it up for the Empire as they look to add another break. But this time Bryant misses the target, and I think he thought the cutter was going to a different part of the field than he ended up going, because he got the throw over the top of the defense. Looked like he put it where he wanted to, and there was just nobody home. Phoenix having to work hard just to move it up 10, 15 yards up the field right now. And that's what's really hurt them in this game. They have not been able to open up the deep space almost at all against this Empire team, which is very good deep, both offensively and defensively. And another nice D on a huck. Big layout there, able to knock it away. That was Timmer Farrell with the block that time. Bryant straight up the sideline to Farrell. Izzy Bryant just dominating his matchup and now puts a big floating backhand up to the end zone. And Mike Drost is there all alone to reel it in for the Empire score. 22-11 now with 4 to go here in the game. And really these games for the Empire against Rochester and Philadelphia and even Washington, D.C., just almost formalities. They have not really been challenged in these games. And I think the length of the game just reduces the chance that an underdog team like Philadelphia can get an upset over a team like New York. We've seen that. Upsets, big upsets are fairly uncommon in the AUDL. Sometimes you see teams win at home against a team that they would most often lose to on the road, but in the East, that's even not so common. Just the teams with better players and better systems consistently win. And the one place we haven't seen that is out west, where there are just so many good teams, and you have to bring your A game every time. And it's not like the Empire have been incredibly sharp today, but they haven't needed to be. Phoenix have given them a lot of gifts with poor throws like that one. Drops. And the Empire, of course, have played good defense, but they haven't been overwhelmingly good in this game. They've had some poor turnovers of their own. So move up the far sideline. Go all the way across the field in the hands of Ryan Drost. And now Ryan Drost is going to attack the end zone, and he's going to get the score in front of his teammate, Ian Guerin. Had some Guerin fans in the crowd not happy that Drost took the scoring opportunity away.
The headline score, number 8, Ryan Drost, assisted by number 4, Matt Pickett-Olivetta.
2:53 to go here in the game. Thanks for being with us on a Sunday afternoon. Pulls up from the Empire.
Ladies and gentlemen, please do not walk on top of the dugout. Please, no one on top of the dugout.
Dump back, hammer fake from the Phoenix.
Two minutes remaining in the fourth quarter.
And a shot into the end zone. Oh, it looked like he wasn't quite in, but he's called in. It's a generous call from the referees. And Empire players wondering what happened there, but either way, it's a score.
Bringing the total to Phoenix 12, Empire 23.
Almost certainly was not in bounds there, for what it's worth. Or, excuse me, he was in bounds. He was not in the end zone. .146 to go here as the Empire wind down another victory here at home. Been dominant at home. And really, outside of Toronto, few teams have really challenged them. Big pole goes out the back of the end zone. Matt Aletta will walk it to the brick mark and check it into play. Auerbach back. Auerbach, sideline. Rips it deep. Aletta taken away by the Phoenix. Aletta never really had a chance up against the taller defender and didn't have any room to try to box out or make a play, and an easy interception for the Phoenix. 1:10 to go here in the game. Phoenix up the near side. And they punch it into the end zone. Close the Empire lead down to 10. Marco Romagnoli asks, why doesn't Boston get an AUDL team? Does Major League Ultimate own the rights like in Portland? I actually don't know the latest on the situation in Boston, but it's not about the MLU blocking the rights as they do in Portland. The Boston team, the Boston ownership rights are in the hands of the owner of the Detroit team, Brent Steep, and for one reason or another has not started up a Boston team yet. I think there's a good chance he's trying to sell that franchise and hasn't found a buyer yet. But it is surprising the AUDL doesn't have a team in Boston. I would imagine within the next 2 or 3 years that will change. But really, Steep, with the ownership, can do whatever he likes. But it sure would be fun to watch the best players in every Eastern Seaboard city in one league and one division. Washington, Philly, New York, Boston, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. And if you had the best players from each of those cities on teams, you would have competition that would be just as compelling as what we see out west in the AUDL, where that's basically happened in Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, San Jose, Seattle, etc. 44 seconds to go here. Empire trying to tack on one more before the end of the game. Babino dumps it back. It's with Dixon. Dixon, blading forehand, finds a man all alone. And it's an Empire score with just under 30 seconds to go in the game.
The Empire score, number 25, Sam
I talked on a podcast recently about some of the issues facing Pro Ultimate right now. One of them is that you have two leagues splitting talent and splitting resources to some extent. You can imagine a scenario in which there was only one league and you have, all of these cities in the AUDL, represented in the AUDL, with the best players. Now, whether it's the AUDL, the MLU, whatever you want to call it, is not really relevant. It's just about having all of the best players and avoiding games like this one where teams are getting blown out by double digits. Not that that doesn't happen even with good teams, but there are a lot of games like this in the AUDL because there are a bunch of teams that are not very good, and they're going up against teams where you do have the best players all together on a roster. And another takeaway from one of the Drost twins. Nice block out on the far side from Ryan Drost. With 3 seconds to go, can the Empire add one? Not sure that they knew the clock was about to expire. Of course, it does not matter, but that'll do it here in New York City as the Empire get a comfortable victory over the Phoenix, 24-13. Thanks so much for tuning in to our coverage today. That's going to do it for our coverage of the regular season of Empire Ultimate. And we will be sure to let you know if we're going to cover the opening playoff game, if the Empire play at home here in New York City or potentially somewhere in upstate New York. We may be on hand to bring you that game. So stay tuned, and there'll be more information about that in the next couple of weeks. So signing off for all of us here at LT World, Orion Burt, Elizabeth Fritz, I'm Charlie Eisenhood. Thanks for being with us. Final score here, New York Empire 24, Philadelphia Phoenix 13. We'll see you next time.